Nice that still so many people are here. I'm proud to announce the next winner. This time it's the winner of FSC, FS Combustion 218, the Rennteam Stuttgart, and I'm sure they will present us a lot of nice and useful things, how they managed to win Formula Student Germany. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And thank you for coming. I hope you're not too tired. If you're not too tired, maybe this presentation will give you the rest. I hope it's not too bad. Okay, so let's start our presentation. To start off, I want to introduce ourselves to you. Next to me is Christian Lichtenberg. He was the CTO of the car for the season 2018. And the year before, he was in charge of the kinematics. My name is Robin Brudlik. I am the CEO, or was the CEO, of this year's team, and last year I was in charge of the rims. For the agenda, first of all, we want to talk to you a little bit about our team history. Afterwards, a little throwback to the season 2018. Next on, a little bit more technical stuff. What is our vision for a road to a successful race car? So what's our opinion on how to build a successful race car? And yeah. Let's start into the team history. So we are the Rennteam Uni Stuttgart, and in the background you can see a picture of the latest rollout with all the cars built up to date. One car is not in the picture, it's the F07 1112, which was in Michigan at this time. Otherwise it's all the cars built. But let's start at the beginning. We were founded in September of 2005. Mainly because of the first edition of FSG. So we decided to build the first race car because of this competition. We are a non-profit registered association, meaning all the money flowing into this project is solely there for the project, and we're not allowed to use the money otherwise. The first car was named the F0711-1, F standing for Formula Type Race Car, 0711 is the telephonic area code of Stuttgart, and 1 for the first car built. Right now, the 14th car is in conception, meaning the new team or the new team members are sitting in front of their laptops and creating the new car in CAD. Let's see what it will look like in the next year. Just to show you what 13 years of evolution look like for the Rennteam Uni Stuttgart, here's a little comparison of the two cars. On the right side, you can see the F0711-1, which was, well, pretty simple. The main purpose was, well, to drive and hold endurance and to be reliable. 13 years later, it looks a little bit different. We now focus more on aerodynamics and lightweight, but the main goal, driving through and hold endurance and being reliable, stood throughout the whole 13 years. Another thing that was there from the beginning was we wanted to win the competitions from day one. It was never an option just to build a car. It was just, it's the main goal for every season, and it's a hard goal, but every year we try to give our best to reach this goal. So let's see how we did last season. It all started in Hungary, in FS East, where we were able to achieve the first place. As you could see in the background picture, it was quite heavy raining. The endurance had to be stopped. It was completely cancelled as we were driving. Therefore, it was pretty dramatic for us and for the results. There were other people having fun in the rain. So, yeah, just a picture I wanted to show you if you were not there. Next on, we were in Austria, where sadly we had a suspension failure in the last corner of the endurance, and we got disqualified for the endurance event. We are still pretty happy that we could achieve the 6th place there. Next on was the event in Germany, Formula Student Germany, where we hit the 1st place overall. And last but not least, the season ending in Spain, which is the season ending for most of the European teams, where we were also able to achieve a 1st place overall. Now I'm going to hand over to Christian, who's going to talk to you about how we think a successful race car is built up upon.
So yeah, thank you, Robin. So what I want to show you is our road to a successful race car. So which are the main principles and so on. And in our opinion, there are 3 main points which are important for this. First of all, you need to have the right concept. Without the right concept, you will never be good at a competition. But you also need a good team which can bring the concept to reality. And last but not least, you need to be good prepared for the competition, because you can have a good concept and a good car, but if you fail in the competition, then you will not be successful. So let's start with the first part, the vehicle concept. Where does the concept come from? As Robin mentioned, we have a strong connection between all our cars, especially with the first car and all the cars. There were 3 words which were always really important for the development and were the basic principle of each season, and they're still in practice right now. And these 3 words, they were complete, finish, and win. And to start with the complete, complete means we want to get the car ready early for maximum testing time. Testing time is probably one of the most important things, and we need this test time for the setup and the team preparation at all. And to achieve this, we have a really clear time schedule with set milestones. So everybody knows when everything has to be finished. I guess most of you will do so. But maybe, which is also important, we have different deadlines for each sub-teams. That means we for sure have a design freeze, but that's only the design freeze for making the car run. So we go on with development with different parts which do not infect the run of the car. So for example, the aerodynamics, that is development freeze is much more later. I will come later on with that. And yeah, for the 11-13, we were able to have a first ride before the rollout. That's probably one of the most important things we always want to achieve. It was quite close, but we managed it. The second word, finish, it's not about to finish the endurance, it's more about the finish you get when you have so much testing time. So with when you have much testing time, your car, the drivers and the teams, they are well prepared, and you are ready for everything the season and the competition faces to you. When we test so much, we learn how to maintain the car, we know how to identify and eliminate small mistakes. So the longer you will drive your car, you probably will know the more mistakes will come up. And if you have tested a lot, you're pretty sure that there will be some mistakes, and it's really good when they come while testing, not while competition. And what we achieve with that is we have a really well prepared testing and service crew. That's one special thing we do. We split our team into 2 devices while the testing season. We have the testing crew, which goes on day with the car testing, and the service crew, which will repair the car overnight for everything which breaks. And so the testing crew, they really know how to fix the car in a fast way, because they want to have the test day going on. And at night, the service crew knows how to fix the car in a proper way, that the problem will not come up again. The main focus for finish this year were our endurance drivers, because we had 2 completely new drivers, which we were much afraid of, because our former drivers, they were quite good, and yeah, so we got them a lot of time to involve them, and we're pretty happy that they could set awesome lap times at the competitions and made us so successful. And the third word was win. I guess it's pretty clear. It's just the result of everything. When we have a prepared car, a prepared team, and prepared drivers, the chances of winning the competitions, they are quite good, I would say. But yeah, that's not everything which is important for winning the competition. As I mentioned, the concept is probably one of the most important things. And I just want to tell you how our path to the basic concept will look like. So we start with the analysis of everything, of the former car. We look at all the data, we look at all the mistakes we found at the car, and try to don't make them again in a new car. And what we also do is to make a competition analysis. That means we look at the competitions we were at, we look where we lose the points, and what we also do is we compare our car, our concept with other teams. So what we need therefore is a good tool for judging decisions, is our lap time. And in this lap time simulation we can put in different car concepts, for example the one-cylinder car with lightweight and much aero compared to four-cylinder engine with more power and so on. And so we can get directly points out of the simulation, and at the end we know which concept is the best for getting the most points. Yeah, when we have made this analyzation, we come up with our main design goals. Most of the time these are 3 words which everyone should always think about while designing the parts. But what we also want to do is we want to keep the basic strengths of the Renteam race cars, which were always drivability, serviceability and reliability. Because when you're bad at one of these 3 points, you probably will have a bad car. Yeah, so now let's have a look at our car in detail. This is the F07 1113, or in short 1113. We have in the back our Yamaha R6 four-cylinder engine with 86 horsepower and 68 Newton meters of torque. Our suspension system is 2 spring and damper systems in front and rear with a driver adjustable anti-roll bar. Our frame body, we have single piece monocoque and a high downforce aero package which is optimized for cornering. All in all, we could manage to have a car which weighs only 182 kilogram with a four-cylinder engine, and what's really important, our traditional design with a lot of white, which is a bit more weight, but we will always want to keep to the basics, and yeah, this car is probably seen as a Renteam car directly. As I mentioned before, we had 3 main goals, and these 3 main goals were reliability, accuracy and performance. So these are really big words which are not really capable directly, but it's more like when you design your part, you should think about these 3 things. With reliability, one example is for example, our engine concept. A four-cylinder engine, we normally have not so big issues like with vibrations and so on. And what is also important are we have validated forces for all our simulation. We make test drives with strain gauges, and so we know that the forces we calculate with they are proper. With accuracy, there's most of the time mentioned the manufacturing quality. And what I want to say with that is you can simulate a car, for example in CFD, and you can build a car, but most of the time this is not exactly the same car because it depends on how good you manufacture, and we wanted to make sure that we stay as near as possible at the simulated car, and this was always one of the main goals. Also, you lose weight when you manufacture in the right quality. You don't need much glue or tape or something like this. And last but not least, performance. What I meant with that is the sub-team cooperation. So performance means the whole car should perform really good, and when the whole car should perform really good, all the sub-teams have to work together. So it's not the suspension guys, they only do suspension, and the aero guys only do aerodynamics. So they always have to speak together, have to develop things together. And I will show you one part which I guess not most of you have seen because it's quite hidden. These were our titanium flexor joints. You can see here these plates, they are really, really thin. And what I want to say with that is these parts were developed by the suspension department, but not for the suspension department, because there's clearly no benefit for suspension with that part. It's a bit lighter, but that's not the point, because it has a really, really big improvement for the aerodynamics, because the airflow to the side pods is not so disturbed. And yeah, it just should show you that we always want to build one car and not different parts, so everything fits together, everyone talks together with each other, and we are searching for the best whole car performance. So yeah, all sub-teams work on the whole car performance. And yeah, how all together works, I will show to you in one short movie. yeah, this was the fastest lap we were able to drive in FSG. It was fastest lap overall, faster than electric cars. But I'm really, really sorry for the bad sound quality, because when you normally hear a car, it sounds better. The camera is quite shit, so just to make everyone happy, here's something better. Was only with handy video, but yeah, I like it very much. And now Ron will tell you something about our team management and how it's organized and so on.
Thanks. So I think this part, most of you will do it when not exactly the same, so I'm not going to bother you too much with it, but I just want to give you an overlook how we are organized. So let's get to our team structure. First of all, for us it's really important to get the structure clear before we even recruit. Therefore, it's really important to know what is important next season. What did we miss this season? What other teams didn't miss? What do we want to improve? And what maybe do we want to make an innovation or something like that? And it's also important for us to know how many people do I need for that. So we always determine how many people we need for a specific task. What does this look like? So every year we are around 40 people. It's mainly 35 to 40 people in the technical division. It can be a little bit more than 40 people if we have many people in the organization for social media and stuff. But for technicians, it's always around 35 to 40 people. For some of you, that might sound like a little number, but we always try, and 8 to 10 people from this block are always people from the second year. As you can see, more than 80% of the people change every year. So we need to learn the new guys in pretty quick, and it's in the best case 8 to 10 people. Last year it was 4 guys doing a second year, and 3 of these guys were from the suspension department. Therefore, it was quite a task to manage all that. But we managed that because we are able to work full-time on the project. Full-time meaning around 80 hours a week minimum. That's only possible for us because we are able to get 1 year off from the University of Studies, meaning we don't need to write any exams or don't need to attend any classes. Therefore, we don't need that much or that many people. Just for that, how do we manage this team of 40 people? Basically through a flat hierarchy. I think most of you guys do have this. So we have a 3-stage hierarchy with the team captains at the top, then the sub-team leaders, and the sub-team members. There are 3 weekly meetings, which are the most important. The first one is the team meeting where, every team member gets together and we discuss the general things of the organization and what are the goals, the main goals in technical-wise for the next week. Then there are the sub-team meetings where the sub-team members report to their sub-team leaders what they were doing in the last week and what they want to do the next week. And then there's, a third meeting, which is the team leader meeting, where all the information gathered through the sub-team meetings is discussed in a smaller group with just the team leaders to get to the point what Chris stated beforehand, that we try to build one car and not different parts, so all the team leaders communicate together and we try to fix the most errors possible. I think most of you will do this in a quite similar way, but what I want to tell you is that it's not only possible with 3 meetings in a week, we think, but we also need tools to communicate fast and easy. Therefore, we use the Google services and Slack. For those of you who do not know Slack, it's a communicating service, especially developed for companies. Just some examples: we use the Google Calendar, we use the Google Drive, and like I mentioned just now, the Slack manager. What's important about these 2 services is, first of all, that they're integratable. So you can integrate the Google Calendar into your Slack, and therefore you can alert your team members for a deadline, not only in the calendar, but also in their messenger. What's also important is the organization of all this stuff. So in Slack you have channels, unlike to WhatsApp, where you can create groups, but also have private and work, maybe mixed. You can create separate channels for certain purposes. Some of them everyone can join, some of them are closed and only by invitation. And so you have everything well organized, and there's no struggle in gaining all your information needed. I think the most important point is the online access, so that you can work every time and anywhere. And what's also really important is that you're device independent with both of these. So as well, Google services as Slack, you can install it on almost every device, mobile, and yes, that's pretty neat. Last but not least, whatever you use, it should be easy to use. Well, because when it's hard to use, no one will use it effectively, and that could be a problem. Next on is team building. How many of you guys are doing team buildings in their season? Could you raise your hands? Okay, almost everyone. That's really nice. Because for us, we think team buildings are one of the most important parts in the season for building a successful team. As you may know, there are many people coming. For us, it's around 40 people, and they all are pretty stoked about what they're going to do next year and want to start and just, get into their task. But it's a problem when they're just working on their vision and not with the whole team. Therefore, the team building is also there to create a team, to work together, to build one car, not just different parts. No problem. So there are 2 main things I want to put focus on. If you're going to do a team building yourself, or if a sponsor is going to do a team building for you, there should be 2 main things included. In my opinion, it's an engineering task where you just have something to do as an engineer. I think it's not the best way to say, okay, let's draw a picture together, because I think it's a technical project, and it's also the most fun doing stuff like that. For example, as you can see on the left, we were building a chain reaction machine with different materials that we were handed out. And on the right side, a little bit cut off, we were assembling a cat car from scratch. We had spare parts and should assemble it, and then would race against each other in groups. Kind of a mini Formula student year. And the other part is just being together. I mean, this is pretty obvious. Whether it's cooking together, drinking together, partying together, or climbing the tallest mountain of Germany together, just communicate aside from all the work you're doing. Get to know each other on a personal basis. That's the most fun. For me, it was after the team buildings, I came, more happily, and I was just not only there to work with my coworkers, but I knew when I come in the morning, I meet my friends and not only the persons I work with. Yeah, so that's from my part. Next on, again, Chris will tell you about how we prepare for the competition.
thank you for your for the team aspect. To be well prepared for the competition is really important, as I mentioned before. So, how do we prepare ourselves for everything? First of all, as I mentioned, with a clear structure in the season, and what I want to show you right now is just a guide through our seasons where we set our milestones, which were the important things, and how the season is planned at all. First of all, our season starts in May. That sounds pretty early, but we need it for recruiting. The focus here is, as always, find new team members, and this early recruiting is really important for us because they need to know that they want to take part 1 year in our team. You just can't say, hey, do you want to come up with Ren team? We start tomorrow, we have to take 1 year for free. It's not so easy most of the time, and that's why we start so early, because we're really looking for new team members. And the milestones here are normally we want to complete the team before the first competition, so we know that which guys do want to take part in the team, and while the competitions we don't have the time to manage all this, so we always try to have the team completed before the first competition. It goes on in July with the competition phase of the old car, and we use this to get the new team members in touch with the topic. So we all invite them to FSG, so that's also one milestone we have there, just to set the new team members on fire there, so they can feel the atmosphere at FSG and how the competition will be, and that's pretty cool for the motivation. Probably they cannot take part at the other events because they're so far away, but it's always a really good opportunity to show them how everything works and just to set them on fire, as I said before. And what goes on, we start with the planning of the season and with the concept. So the focus here is we want to analyze the season in the car, as I mentioned before, with the concept finding. And there in this phase, we want to find the basic concept and the main design goals, so everyone knows when the start of the season begins, what to do and where they should work on. What is important here, the milestone is to finish the main concept and not the simple concepts with the small parts. So we always just decide whether we want to make a big change to the car, for example, changing the whole suspension system or changing the monocoque or the aero concept and so on. And this decision is made here, because when you want to change something big later on, then it's too late, you don't have the chance to, you don't have the time to make the best out of this concept. And what's going on after that, we have our forming. This is the phase where we have make a team out of the strangers, like Robin said before, where we all have our team buildings and so on. And what we also have is concept presentations. These are also one of the milestones in this phase. And the concept presentations are there. All the new team members, they can think about their own ideas. They know which topic they should do, and they think about new ideas. And they can present in the presentation in front of all the alumni. They can present their ideas. So probably they come up with 5 or 10 different ideas they want to do at the car, and then they get feedback from the alumni, most of the time bad, but sometimes there are really good new ideas there. The problem is when you're always inside of your team, you don't look outside, and so we can get fresh new ideas from the new team members and not saying them before, this is your concept, you work in the concept, and when it's their own idea they could do over there, the motivation is even bigger. After the forming, we go on with the design phase. Design phase starts in October and normally ends at the beginning of December. Here, for sure, our car development is set. So we do all the simulation stuff, we do the CAD part, and at the end of November, there's the design freeze. So this will be for the new car in the next weeks. The milestone over there are first the Ethik. I don't know if any one of you knows what this means. In German, it means alle Teile im CAD. So all parts in CAD. This is really one important step, because you have your first time the model in the computer, which has all parts in it, and you know where parts could collide, where they have set, and you save your space for building them. Exactly. After that, there's a design freeze, which I mentioned before, which will be in the next weeks for the new car. And in this time, there are also these sub-team specific milestones. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, the aero milestones with design freeze is not here. It's a bit more later. But here, normally all the important parts are finished and they will not be changed anymore. And at least there's again a presentation in front of the alumni, the design presentation where the new car is presented to alumni and they can see, okay, what will be the next car, and they can tell them if there's still a mistake in there or something they have not seen, and it's the last chance to change something at the new concept. What goes on after that, in December there's manufacturing. We start manufacturing all our parts and start also with a static practice. So maybe you knew we were, for example, designed quite well in the last season, and we start also in December with training for this. So when everyone knows what he should say, and it's not something new at the competition, it went quite normally a bit better. And milestones here are all drawings are finished, so all drawings should be finished at the end of December, so for Christmas. And after that, the parts will not be changed. And at the end of the manufacturing phase, which is normally about April, there's the first assembly of the car. When the car is full assembled, it goes on with testing. And testing is a really cool phase when you can see the car in action. And the focus here is to optimize the systems and find the setup. And milestones here are at the beginning for sure the first ride. First ride is also the first engine start in the car. Just an example how it looked in our car. It was quite fun. It took some hours in the night. Some days, but we managed to start the engine. Later on there's the rollout. As I mentioned before, we normally want to have a driving car before the rollout, and the rollout is so the biggest milestone for the aerodynamics, because then they have to put all the wings at the car, because if a front or rear wing is missing at the rollout, we have a problem with all our sponsors, because we can't put a logo on our car. So, but the most important thing here is the car which is on the rollout is not the actual car which will drive the competition later on, because sometimes there are parts on the car which are from the last car. For example, our front wing here, you can see, is not the same like we drove in the competitions. It's exactly the same like the year before, so only the end plate. But so we can just going on with development for the aerodynamics, and normally the rollout is the stop of development. So that means manufacturing for the aerodynamics starts, development stops at the rollout, and manufacturing starts. And normally then nothing is changed anymore. So that's for the actual car, the development freeze. But sometimes we use some guys for going on with development and looking for the next year's car, and just looking for some potential or updates, for example, the Michigan competition, where we will participate in May. And then there's the last deadline, which is the race configuration. That means at this time, no new parts will be set on the car. This is normally 1st of June. We want to make a good setup with the car, and this is only possible when the car stays the same. Because when you always put some new parts on it, the setup will change, the car behavior will change, and you will not make a progress. And after that, hopefully we're ready to race for the competition. When we're ready to race for the competition, there's the competition phase. We went to the competitions Robin told you before, and their focus for sure is to get maximum points on winning the competition. So that's the end of the season. The new season starts, and just to have a short look back, what made us win FSG? We sometimes thought about it, if it was only luck or not, but just some small things what we think would make us strong as a team, what made us strong to win the competitions. And one thing is we always want to bring every part to its best. So we set the clear goal at the beginning of the season. We want to win our competitions. That's the main goal. And everything else is, everything which is not the best is not proper for the car. And so we always want to have 100% solutions in our car. So there's no part inside which is not tested, which we do not know it will work. Only 100% solutions are there. And what is always something which is kind of frustrating, so you always know some guys who say, oh, I have a problem, and so on. The answer you will get in our team from normally team captains, when you say, I have a problem, and you will hear, there are no problems, there are only challenges. It's really annoying to hear something like this, but if you see every problem as a challenge, you know there's a solution, and there's always a solution, and always a 100% solution for our car. One of the examples I want to give here is maybe the background. You can see it. This was the reason why we failed the endurance in FS Austria. We had a broken push rod, or a broken part at the push rod. And we had the biggest problem that FSG was really, really fast after FSA, and there was not the time to really change something at the car. So we were not sure whether the part was the problem, whether there was a mistake inside of the part or something else, and we do not want to participate FSG when we knew it was not safe, and when we knew we can fall out because the track in FSG is a bit more bumpy than in FSA. So, by the way, it broke in rain in FSA, so it's also something we were a bit afraid of. So what we did is we made an analysis of the whole assembly, of the whole system, to find the source of the failure. And last but not least, we thought about it was the bearings of the push rod, which had too much friction, and that was the reason for the break. So one of the easy solutions would be just to put in another part, but it would have been broken too, I guess. So we just switched the bearings, and the problem was gone. So yeah, and at least there's something, a really, really big strength of our team and maybe of our region. I'm not sure. Robin, shall we okay. Yeah, there's something only a real Swabian has, or a Stuttgarter has, and this is Maultaschen. So who of you knows Maultaschen? Oh, it's quite a lot. That's nice. And yeah, it's really, really a big, not a big secret, but it's one of the formula of success for our team, because it's the perfect food for Formula students. It's healthy, it has enough calories. The best thing is it's also tasty and easy and fast to cook. So we are able to work much more because we don't have to cook really long. And with Maultaschen, it's really, really, really easy. And you can work any longer. And yeah, which is also quite good that there are lots of variants possible. So you can you can either eat them with tomato sauce and cheese, or with egg, or stand away, and you're always happy about it. And yeah, so now that you know our biggest secret, you will win FSG next year, but we will see. So see you at the Hockenheim, hopefully next year. Yeah. If there are any questions, just feel free to ask.
Yeah, thank you for the nice presentation. I think there will be a Rennteam cookbook for Maultaschen next year. If you have any questions, we have some time left, and now you're invited to ask. They cannot run away, so you can ask them every question you want.
So if you win a category, which team do you compare yourself to, or how can you improve in this category? What do you do?
You mean with a competition analysis? With the
For example, in skip pad, you're the
skip pad?
first, you're the best, you're even faster than electric cars, and what do you do to get better?
We do setup, so testing, changing different driving styles, changing tires, tire pressure, and so on. So the standard way, that's no magic.
And do you also compare your cars to your old cars?
Sometimes we try to do. It's most of the time a problem to get two cars at the same place at the same time because we only have one trailer. But sometimes it works, yes, and we try to do this.
All right, thanks.
Hey, you said that your driver can adjust the anti-roll bar while driving. For me, that's not typical. Is it an option for the driver for different corners? Does he use this there, or is it just to stay in the flow while driving and to test different options?
We used it for testing different setups, different roll stabilities, and normally we use it for making the ARB a bit more stiff in the really short corners, like the hairpin corners.
Okay, so your driver is adjusting it overlap.
So we have a button on the wheel, and you just push it, and then it goes hard or soft.
Okay, so two options just.
Exactly. We had the same system some years ago, with different options. But the problem was when the driver has to click a lot of times at the wheel, he loses the focus on driving, and we found out that only two options are enough.
Okay, thank you.
How much of the people in your team are in bachelor or in master studies?
It's quite mixed. Well, we always say after the 4th semester you're ready to be in the team, because beforehand you got, well, many classes and exams that are pretty hard in Stuttgart, and you should, well, have them finished first before you take off a year and get out of studying and stuff like that. It depends on the years. In the year of the 11-12 we had many master students. Last year it was more bachelor students than master students. Every year it fluctuates. It's just, I don't know, the people who apply to it. But for us it's, well, the swell is the 4th semester for us, when we say now you're ready, if you can say that.
I have one question as well. If you have different deadlines for the sub-teams, for example, the aero deadline is quite late, how do you ensure that your aero package will get finished? Because if they are late for 2 weeks, then you have a big problem.
Yeah, that's we always have deadlines with some space left to the real deadline. I guess everyone does it. And yeah, in the meeting we have every week, we control the time schedule where the sub-teams are right now, and we always want to know really fast whether the time schedule, the deadline is okay or not, and so we can manage this.
What tools do you use for documentation, and how do you get people to document?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, we tried really to get more documentation, because it's most of the most important things, but it never works the way you imagine. We have an own Wikipedia page, where normally everyone at the end of the season writes down what he did and what were the main aspects someone could improve, and what can help for the next year. So we had quite good data with that. but it's always really hard to motivate all our sub-team members to write down everything. So it's also not easy for us, and it's always a fight.
And do you use tools like Siemens Team Center?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Then there's another question. You showed a picture with an old front wing from the rollout. And does this imply that you always have working backup for every new part, or is it just sometimes it fits and sometimes not?
So this year was the first year where we did this. It was quite, the problem was we were not in time with the front wing, and we normally wanted to get the most potential out of it, and we were pretty sure that if we finish it until the rollout, we lose potential. And so we decided we can just use the old molds. The end plates normally are quite easy to fit on a main plane, and yeah, so we just had enough time to go on with the development, and yeah.
So not every new development has a backup, a running backup.
Exactly, and the good thing is you always have a backup for the competition if something fails.
Yeah.
And the new guys, they can really learn pretty early how to manufacture parts like this.
Who does the manufacturing at your team of the monocoque and the aerodynamics? Are this the ones who are the constructors, or are there specific people?
So normally we don't have anyone especially for manufacturing. So everyone who develops his part, he will manufacture it himself. So we have, for especially the monocoque, 2 guys, one for simulation and one for the material tests, and they build the monocoque together. And some other members of the team, they help them normally, so they can work in 12-hour steps. Yeah, shifts.
And of course, alumni are helping. So, for example, the monocoque is a pretty critical part, as you may know, and therefore we always invite the alumni of the last years for the monocoque. So the first layers are sometimes laid by them, or really pretty shown how they should do it. So it's always, ask your alumni to.
How much testing kilometers did you have before FSG?
I'm not 100% sure. It was less than we wanted, but it was about 1,000, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, then another question from me. You take part in Michigan almost every year. How do you manage the different rule sets? Do you read the rules, both rule sets, and then develop the car for both? Or do you read the rule set of FSAE afterwards and check if you can compete in Michigan and what you have to change? What's your approach?
So that's a long time process, because normally the team captains of the new teams, they were members of the former team, so second year members, and so they know about the Michigan rules from the former car. And the problem is when the rules changes in the time, then you can't do anything. But we know some parts are important, especially the checking point at the rear of the car, so we always develop the car kind of for both competitions. That we don't want to make compromises for sure, but normally they're not so big, and yeah, but we have to know both rulebooks.
Any further questions?
How much of the parts from the previous car do you recycle for the new one?
No parts, normally. So we have clear borders between the cars and the teams. So every team has its own parts, and we always want to have our older cars being run, and so they need their spare parts, and all the parts are made new for the new car.
Okay, thanks.
Since we have some time left till the others arrive, how do you prepare for scrutineering?
Yeah, we do our own scrutineering before, normally in the workshops, also with alumni. They come with us. Sometimes they're also scrutineer at competitions. That's quite nice. So they're not allowed to scrutineer our car at the competitions to make sure, but they come to a workshop and we just simulate the scrutineering to be well prepared. And we use the old scrutineering sheets and go through the whole car and are searching for things which are not okay.
Did you have any problems this year during scrutineering?
Yes. I guess you can't see that the pictures at this, probably not. We had some manufacturing problems with our main hoop, and the bending radius was not okay. So in Austria, we had to weld extra parts on our main hoop to be able to drive there. On the new pictures, you probably could see it, but yeah.
So for Germany, you did in your main hoop?
No, it was okay because we were the same scrutineers and we discussed that FSA topic and they said this is a good solution. That's why you always should control when your parts come in if they're right manufactured, but because the drawing was right.
Quite unfortunate. No further questions? Now you have the time? Because right after this talk, there will be the Verabschiedung, another talk with all people. So we need to stay in this room. We have some spare time.
Sorry, are there parts you redesign or do you develop every part from zero?
You just can't say it in general. So we always think at every part and think about if it's necessary to redesign it. And if you have to redesign it, we will do so. So.
For example, as for the rims, they were an evolution, not a revolution. So I took the old model and ran a new simulation, just tried to see what I can do better, what I can evolve. But other parts need to be manufactured completely new, like rockers, something like that, because the kinematic is new, and then you have to change the part.
Yeah, it always depends on the potential a part has. So if there's no big potential, you don't have to put much work in it because that's unnecessary. You better go to a new concept where you have more potential.
One last question from my side. How do you ensure that you have a reliable car? If you want to have the 100% solution, at least I would design a very sophisticated, very complex part, and that will probably break during endurance.
Yeah, that's the main concept of our car. We don't really... Reliability is the first point of every part while designing. So it's better than the part is a bit more heavy, then it will break in the...
And how do you ensure that?
With lots of knowledge from the former years. So we know what went wrong, we knew what was good, and the parts which went wrong we changed, made them better. and we stayed to the rest of it. And with the forces we measured at the car, we know how to simulate. We know the simulated part they did not break, and yeah, so we stay with concepts where we know they will work. For example, our engine concept, which we drive now in the 4th year, and yeah.
Okay. Any last question? No? So thanks a lot for the nice presentation. And we will continue with the next point in the agenda as soon as they arrive with the summary. Till then, you have a break.